Hey guys, welcome to the Hope Village podcast. I'm Ri-Karlo.
And I am Lucy, and I want to welcome you back. We're excited that you joined us again this week.
My name is Ri-Karlo Handy. I'm a filmmaker. I was recently inspired to make a movie about the life of Lucy Hall.
I always tell the women my story. I used to smoke crack in the bathroom. Today, if you go to my house, what's in the bathroom is my Bible. Because I had to put something in that place that was greater than what used to be in that place.
Her story has inspired thousands of women to get on the path to recovery and change their lives forever.
Like I always tell the women in recovery, now you're the disciple that gotta go share it.
Amen.
You're the person who's gotta go tell your story. You've gotta be an advocate.
In this podcast, we will go in depth with Lucy and the recovery community at large.
You shouldn't have to get arrested to get well. If the community and the place where you grew up and the place where your family lives isn't gonna be about redemption, who is?
You are tuned in to the Hope Village podcast. Stay tuned to find out how you can see the movie Hope Village and get Lucy's book, The Complete Guide from Rehab to Recovery.
If I can put a Hope Village in every town, we'd be in business.
Yeah, today we got a really great, awesome interview with a brother down there in Athens, Georgia, Jaime. Tell me about the interview. What was the key takeaways people are going to get today from this interview?
So what I'm excited about is one of the chapters in the book, Hope Dealer. We talk about when addiction turns violent or criminal. And the reality of it is, in our active addiction, we wind up doing all kinds of things that we didn't plan to do. But Jaime's story is one of redemption, one of restoration, and one of hope. This brother had a rap sheet from here to California, and yet and still God is using him to do great and mighty things. He turned his will and his life over, and it is just amazing. So I'm excited because, like I said, in chapter 6 of the book, it says when addiction turns violent or criminal. In the depths of this disease, people do anything to get the next high. And so I'm excited that not only does Jaime talk about how he turned his life around, but he talks about the amazing things he's doing to give back in recovery and what a new life of recovery means for him. So it's all about recovery on the show. So stay tuned. We want to tell you all about it.
Yeah, so that interview is coming up in just a few moments. And before we jump into the interview, I just wanted to make a few announcements and then get you guys right into the interview. One of the things that Lucy and I have been focused on is that, this is a national epidemic but the solutions are local, right? Like in your community, there needs to be solutions that you have access to. And so to that end, from our last episode, we were connecting with the Salvation Army folks in Southern California and just excited about the language in the book. And by the way, you can get the book. You can order the book now at our website, Hope Dealer Book. You can order at hopevillageproject.com, and you can get a link to buy the movie as well, or you can search it on Amazon, Hope Village on Amazon. You can go ahead and grab the movie from there as well, and we'll keep you updated with other places it's available. But inside of sharing with them, they wanted us to come and have Lucy come and do a training because the language that we're using, the language that Lucy's using with Living Recovery Out Loud is just exciting and really creates a lot of hope for people that may have not seen a hope, especially when it comes to sharing their story. A lot of folks are still not necessarily living it out loud. And so, Lucy, just tell me about the things you may have planned for these community screening that we're going to do at Salvation Army and how other people can also have you come to see them.
So what I really want to help people to realize is there's a language of recovery. First and foremost, we always talk about addiction. We talk about the addict, but we don't talk about recovery. We don't talk about the other side so that people who find themselves in the grips of addiction realize there is hope in recovery. And so one of the things, I even heard it just today, one woman said, well, when I got clean. And I turned around and I said, well, when were you dirty and what did that look like? Because those are the kind of things we've got to change. We got to change what we say. I was never dirty. When I introduce myself, I don't introduce myself and say, my name is Lucy, I'm an addict. I'm a person in long-term recovery. And the key there is I'm a person. So teaching people that we are people, this is what recovery looks like. And so really changing the language, and I call it changing the language in recovery, changing the language of love. You know, we all talk about our love language. Well, I want to talk about my recovery language, my new way of living. And really, it's all about hope. We want to give people hope. We don't want to keep holding them down. We want to lift them up. And so we talk about what's right with you, what are the things that are working well for you, so that people want to do more of it. It's about attraction, not a promotion. People want what I have because they see me doing it, living out loud. And so I want to come and I want to share with you and your group of people. If you want to show the movie to a group of people in your community, whether it's at your church, whether it's at your recovery community organization, or even at the Salvation Army, how they're bringing all of the Salvation Armies together to view the movie. Because you and I both know there are a number of people who are working with people in recovery, and they really don't use the right language. So we want to come in and talk to you about how best to edify people, how best to sell them the hope that they need so that they can get better a day at a time. So that's really what I want to share as we go out and do these trainings. And we want to come share it with you and your community. That's just it. Create a community, connect people together. And one of the ways we can do this is doing the training on a language of love. We want to share it with you. So as Ri-Karlo said, go to our website, look at hopevillage.com.
Hope Village Project. Yep.
Hopevillageproject.com. And we want to come and bring it to your community because we just want to make you a hope dealer.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, and the folks that have seen the movie and have gotten the training or the book are just excited about, the comment I get the most is, this changed everything I used to think about addiction and recovery. As everyone knows, in the process of doing the film, that's changed me as well. Meeting Lucy and learning all this stuff. So just a couple more quick announcements, and then we'll get you into this interview featured today. One announcement is we have some more screenings coming up, that are through film festivals. So if you just are hearing the podcast and you're in these areas at this time, you can go ahead to our website and buy a ticket and come see the movie. And so the next screening coming up is actually February 12th in Los Angeles at the Live Theater. It's the Los Angeles Black Film Festival. And that link is on our website as well. We got the Pan-African Film Festival coming up on February 19th. That's going to be a Friday at 4 p.m. in L.A. But then we also got a screening in Sugar Hill, which is just north of Atlanta, Georgia. The Broad Street Film Festival. That's February 22nd. And then we have some future dates coming up in Indianapolis in April. And in Mississippi, Tupelo Film Festival. I don't think I told you about that one yet, Lucy, but Tupelo.
No, you haven't.
Yeah, we just got
Mississippi.
Tupelo, Mississippi. Yep, April 16th. So and we'll continue to keep you updated. But like we said, our goal is to come meet people where they're at in their local communities and share this film.
So Ri-Karlo, you said February 19th is the Pan-African.
Yes.
That's on a Wednesday. The 19th is on a Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday. Friday. I'm sorry. Right. Yeah, that's Friday.
Yeah,
Friday.
So that's on a Wednesday. So, and Wednesday. I will actually be at that one. So I'm excited. So I'll be back in LA for that one. And that one will also be the day after the training at the Salvation Army. And so we're excited to be in LA again. And we just want to come share hope in your community. And like I said, set up a screening, bring church members, bring stakeholders, bring your state representatives, bring the recovery community, bring allies, bring clinicians, because we all just want to help people to be well. And so that's how we all heal together. That's how we all grow together if we know the language that we all speak. I always make reference, like I said to them, how do you get along with your loved ones when you learn their love language? They really feel like you appreciate them when you talk their language. So when you talk to me about my recovery, know what you should be talking about. Don't say how long you've been clean. I was never dirty. Say to me, you are a person in long-term recovery. And what that means, it's been 30 years since I've had the need to do any minor mood-altering substances. And because of that, I'm able to do what I'm doing now, and that is bring hope to others.
That's awesome. So on that note, we're going to get into this interview with Jaime, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks, my brother. So I'm truly excited today to have a dear brother and friend of mine. I always say he's a brother from another mother. My dear friend Jaime Scott, who is a man of God, who is up there in Athens, Georgia, really making it happen. And Jaime, I want you to first introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your story. And then I want to talk about the RCO that you and Tony, y'all launched, I don't know how many years ago when RCOs, and for those of you who don't know what an RCO is, it's a recovery community organization, and it is the now move so that people have things in the community that really celebrate and hold up recovery. So, Jaime, start first by introducing yourself and telling us about your recovery journey, and then I'll ask you some questions about your RCO up there in Athens, Georgia.
Okay, well, first and foremost, my name is Jaime Scott, and I am excited to be able to be on this podcast with Lucy. She called me up and she started having conversations, and she began to say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing with my podcast," and she's released a book and a movie, so on and so forth. So it's my honor to be able to come in here and share my life experiences, my shortcomings, and just where the Lord has led me to today. So I'll start off by saying I got introduced to alcohol and drugs at an extremely young age, and also a life of crime. I got my first I'm 49 years old. I'll soon be 50, but I got my first Kennedy 50 cents. Back then, they used to make those in a when I danced on the floor real good at my uncle's bootlegger house that was in the inner city. What I mean by bootlegger, it's a place where they sold alcohol and they didn't have a license or whatever. But my uncle had one of the most, I would say, kind of popular bootlegger houses in our housing authority of projects. In that same neighborhood, I seen my uncle get killed right in front of me at the age of 4.5, about 5 years old, right outside of my uncle's bootlegger house. So if I danced real good on the floor, how they will reward me is with a Kennedy 50 cent or give me a swallow out of a can of Schlitz malt liquor. Back then, it wasn't. That's before the bull came out or whatever else. And at times, I'll get a sip of gin. It just depends on how good I could dance like James Brown back in the 70s. And man, did I know how to do a split and turn around so I can get my pocket full or get me a swallow of alcohol. It started off as life and fun and games at that time. But as I got introduced to a life of crime, my cousin, I never forget, she took me to she asked me, said, "Jaime, look, do you want some Hubba Bubba or do you want some candy?" And I told her, "Yeah, of course I did." She said, "This is what I want you to do. We're getting ready to go to the store. When I take you into the store, we're going to put a few items on you, so on and so forth, take you up to the counter. Now, when you get to the counter, I want you to tell the guy who's running the store that your stomach hurts." So I had my cousin friend was at the counter distracting him while they was loading me down. And I tell them my stomach was hurt and they'll take me into the restroom. And there was this window in the restroom at the time that could slide open if you stood on the toilet, and they would, unload me and throw candy out the window and sometimes repeat that. And they gave me a thing of Hubba Bubba at the end of the day. By the time I was 8 years old, when I was 8 years old, I got somebody in the background. Hey, Vanessa. Yeah,
no problem. So it all began for you up top, and no, actually, you said you were in the inner city. So you were in the inner city here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, in Athens, Georgia, before I got to Atlanta.
Gotcha.
Athens, Georgia. Yeah. So
tell me about the progression of how that led you to drugs, alcohol, crime, and then to recovery.
Yeah. So when I was at the age of 8, I started going out to the the plaza, and I knew how to steal because of being introduced to that at a very young age. I knew how to steal. I was introduced to marijuana. And the very first time I ever went into a grocery store, I remember my brother turning around. He loaded himself down. I loaded myself down. And he asked me, "Hey, Jaime, am I straight?" And I said, "Yeah, you look okay." And I turned around. I said, "What I look like?" He said, "You look straight." So that was at the age of 8. We left from Athens, went across seas. My mom met a guy who was in the Navy. We was stationed in Yokohama, Japan, on base in a place called Nagishi Heights. We stayed there for 2.5 years, went from there to Burlington County, but Willingboro, New Jersey for 2 years. My mom got a divorce. We came back to Athens and she met a guy who was a pilot for Delta, and we went to Atlanta. By the time I was 14, I got my first incarceration, and that was for a burglary charge. My second one was an auto theft charge, and that was at the age of 15. And at the age of 17, I was facing 2 life sentences, one for armed robbery and one for murder. And I just didn't know what to do, how to get out of that, so on and so forth. My mom gave me the quick 2-minute little pep talk saying, okay, I told you make your bed hard, you got to lay in it. I don't have any money for you. You need to turn to Jesus and pray. That's my first time that I actually ever really cried out to the Lord or whatever else. And he seemed to deliver me. I made a lot of promises. I made a lot of vows, but when I got out, sadly, I didn't keep them. And there was this new drug that had hit on the scene in 1988 when I got out, but it hit in 87, I think, and it was called crack cocaine. I got introduced to crack cocaine, and my life was in a spiral for from the age of 18 until 37. I was incarcerated 54 times. I was in level 5 prisons 4 times. And the last go around when I was incarcerated, I rededicated my life to the Lord. And when he let me back home to Athens, I just wanted to be able to, give someone else the experience that I had of hope. So that's how everything started, kind of with me beginning to get to the place to where I'm at. But I want to give you a minute, Lucy, because I don't know. I can keep on rolling with it, but I want to.
No, you rolling. So at age 34, you rededicated your life, came back on the street, and you began the journey of recovery.
Yeah, well, at age 37.
At age 37. Okay.
Yeah.
So 37. So and you just said you were about to turn age 50. So you've been you're a person in long-term recovery, and it's been how long?
About 13 years, coming up on 13 years, 12,
13 years since you had a need to do that lifestyle anymore, whether it's getting high or taking things that don't belong to you.
Right.
Wow, that's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what was that reconnection. Because it was interesting. I never forget this, Jaime. I remember introducing you to a brother who had just gotten out of prison. And I just happened to meet him. And it was interesting because I met him because as a Black man, 40-something years, 40 years old, and when I met him, I told you, I said to him, I said, you're not married? He said, no. And I said, you don't have no kids? I said, no. I said, you're either gay or you've been in prison. Which one is it? And he started laughing. And he said, yo, you real bold. I said, no, I'm real honest. And he said, well, I've been in prison. And he told me his story about being in prison for 20-something years. And immediately I thought of you saying, I got to connect him to other brothers. Yeah. And I think that's one of the struggles today, because brothers do these long bids. They come out here and the world has changed totally. And the thing that we're finding today is something that you did with another brother who had a long stretch of incarceration, Tony, is you guys started what's called a recovery community organization. Tell me how y'all met and how that came about.
So Tony was working with Advantage Behavioral Health System down here in Clark County. And I was just in church, and I was working at the chicken plant because of my record. Y'all heard it. It wasn't a lot of places that would hire me, but I knew I had to do something, and anything was better than nothing. And I wanted to make an honest day's wages, right? So Tony was doing some things with recovery over there at the time, and I was going up under the bridges. It's this bridge called North Avenue, and Willow Street crosses it, and it was where a lot of homeless people stayed at. And it was just, they had king size beds. They had everything up under there. But so I started going up under there, and Tony showed up one day, and we was doing like our second annual Keep Warm project, which just consisted of bringing out some hygiene bags, of some gallon-sized Ziploc bags of hygiene, cooking a hot meal on the grill, passing out skull caps, blankets, socks, shoes, just anything that can keep someone warm with the love of God up under the bridge.
You were doing this from your church?
No,
were you doing this through your church, or how were you doing it? You just was doing it as an evangelist. You knew that God told you to go do it.
Right, because the Lord led me to go do it. This one guy was telling me they was doing a sack lunch ministry one time, but a guy relapsed, and that was years back. And he had been begging me at the post. Well, he had been asking me, let me say that, saying, Jamie, look, man, come with me and go up under the bridge. And when I went up under there, I began to see a lot of people that looked like me when I was broken, when I was distraught, when I was at my wit's end. And I began to see some people who I was in addiction with, and just showing up with a loaf of bread, a pack of bologna, a pack of cheese, and a 12-pack. I don't even think we had enough money to get a whole case of sodas. And we just wanted to pray with them. I started the following year bringing people to church by the van loads and just trying to share life experience and hope with them. So me and Tony got connected, and he was at the next one after that. I started volunteering at this place now that I'm the director, called the Sparrow's Nest Mission Church Incorporated, which is Sparrow's Nest Athens. If you look it up online, so if you just look it up online, and I started volunteering there during Saturday morning breakfast. I started doing an alternate Bible study, and after doing that for about 3 years, and Tony started showing up, and a guy who had put out some different nonprofits who had started some, birthed some out, 2 or 3 of them by the name of Tommy York. We knew that he was experienced. He was a whole lot smarter than us, and we wanted to, just do something cool, which started wanting to open a recovery house. So we began, he denied us the first 1 or 2 times, and he began to say, hey, okay, well, check this out. If you guys are serious, let's meet up. The first thing you need to do is think about a board. After you get your board, you need to begin to start looking at the banking situation, okay, putting some of that stuff in place. You need to start going out, being inclusive in the community, meeting other people, just volunteering your times like you're doing here, and then we'll see what comes up out of that. We filed through SAMHSA, and this was in 2014. And we was one of the first RCOs, and we got recognized through them, accredited through them, and just continued to do the work in the community of providing a place for us, a check-in services at the Sparrow's Nest, and doing apartments. So that's how we first started off, doing apartments, 8 apartments, having a check-in service at the Sparrow's Nest, and just meeting people where they are, no matter where they were at.
You know what is so amazing what you just said, because that's truly how I started Mary Hall Freedom House, which will celebrate 25 years next year. Is how I got into the field of working in recovery is because once God set me free, he told me to go back and get others. And so to your point, that same mentality, I always say to people, when you've been set free from something, it wasn't for you. It was now go help other people. And so I did the same thing. I started volunteering at a recovery place, and the next thing you know, they offered me a job. And the next thing you know, I became an addiction counselor. And then I just started my own program when I got to Georgia. And so I say all of that because people need to realize they'll show up, in our lives 13 years and 30 years. I've been in recovery. And they'll show up and see what we're doing now, but they have no idea from whence we come.
Right.
Okay, my brother?
That's
People
right.
do not realize from whence we've come. It's been a journey. It didn't just happen overnight. And it says sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but it will always materialize if you work for it.
Yeah.
And so today, you've been the executive director at Sparrow's Nest now, how long?
For 5 years.
For the past 5 years. And I have been amazed at what you've done in those 5 years. Like, I came to the Sparrow's Nest, and I don't even know what I was expecting when I came up there. It was just that I fell in love with you and your wife. And it was like, I want to come see what you're doing in Athens, and I want to share whatever my knowledge and experience has been. And I got up there, Jamie, and I was just so blessed to see how you were reaching out to the least of them, feeding them, clothing them, giving them hope, and still, doing what God has called you to do. So tell me a little bit more about the RCO. The RCO started in 2014, you said?
2014, yes.
2014. And so from 2014 to 2020, it's 6 years old. But I know you handed that over because it had to be. It's amazing. You and Tony started the first RCO, but both of y'all have gone on to do something. He's now the state director for recovery. The state director. Both of these brothers with criminal histories that only God can erase. You know, the walk that you've walked, both of y'all, to get to where you are. You carry the title as executive director. He carries the title of state director of recovery for the state of Georgia. And I carry the title of CEO. And that ain't nobody but God, my brother.
That's right.
You can turn this thing into a praise party. But nonetheless, just giving hope to people to realize it's not where you start. It is that you start. First and foremost, you got to start the journey somewhere. And as long as you continue one day at a time, you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. It is the truth about the matter. So what's up? What's up next for the Sparrow's Nest? You also just told me about the term 50 years old, so I can't wait to ask you how we celebrate that one, brother.
Right. I'll talk about the Sparrow's Nest, but PLR, I think they're in a great place now. I just want to real quick.
PLR is the name of the RCO.
Yeah. People living in recovery.
I'm sorry. PLR stands for what?
People living in recovery. Yeah.
So PLR is the name of the RCO, which is a recovery community organization. So I want everybody to get that. If you want information, if you're in the Athens area and you're looking for a place to connect with recovery, there's PLR, People Living in Recovery, and there is the Sparrow's Nest, which if you need a hot anything, you know, stop by. Jaime is up there rocking and rolling as the executive director. Him and Tony handed PLR over to another gentleman who I actually met at Recovery Day this past week at the Recovery Capitol. So tell me about PLR and then tell me about Sparrow's Nest.
Okay, so PLR, they have an amazing team of 5 people over there. You know, it started with me and Tony under the bridge, but because of some of the funding that DD brought into existence for that organization, which was 2 different grants, it allowed them to hire up to 6 staff. I think they're down to 5 now. It's a little bit more functionable and feasible, but they have an amazing team, as I said, with Shane Sims, the director, and a couple more other people that's over there. And they're doing great work around the opioid epidemic and also being a place where you can come do check-ins. And they also are doing warm handoffs, not just locally, but across the state and different trainings. Kudos for PLR. It's still going strong, and I thank God for the staff they have over there. On another note, the Sparrow's Nest. So what we are just generally 3 words. We're a place of refuge, resources, and restoration. 3 R's, right? So a person can come through our doors any given time, any given day, and we say refuge because they're coming out of darkness, they're coming out of brokenness, or they're coming from up under the poverty level. We're right in a busy area close to downtown Athens on Prince Avenue. So when they come into our place, we want it to be welcoming. We want it to be a place of safety and comfort. Make it feel like home, a place of refuge. In Psalm 91, God talks about he is a refuge and a fortress, for those who come to him. So the refuge is just that place of comfort, that place of safety that they can come in. The resources is they can receive ID, birth certificate, prescriptions of non-controlled substances, bus passes out of state, right? And local bus passes. That's what we do far as our resources on an administrative component. They also can get showers, laundry, a breakfast, a lunch. They can go to the clothes closet, computer lab, those types of resources that we're providing. The restoration piece is a brand new class that we just broke out with our first cohort, Lucy. You got to come check out the next one. And it's called Breaking the Cycle, which consists of a 14-week period. And real quick, the curriculums that we're rolling out, which is evidence-based, recognized through SAMHSA, so on and so forth, so forth. The first one is getting started. How did I get here? The second curriculum is basic cognitive skills, rational, irrational thinking. The third one is core values. The fourth one is recovery maintenance. The fifth one is employment skills. And the last one is managing my finances. We begin to get partners from some real large corporations who kind of bought into it, because at the end of the day, what we want to do is not enable people, but impact people. And we're doing that through this curriculum with changing people's attitudes, behaviors, thinking ability, and substance use disorders.
Awesome, my brother. I'm just always blown away by the next thing every time I connect with you, what you have going on. I am truly amazed, and I am thankful to have crossed paths with you, because it always one of those things where we get to encourage one another.
Right.
So I thank God that we connected, but I also thank God that you're part of my recovery community. Even
Same
though
here.
you're in Athens, like I know, we're always a phone call away, and
Yeah.
always able to encourage one another and pray with one another. So what's coming up at the Sparrow's Nest that we want everybody to know so we can support you?
Okay, so what's coming up? You can go to sparrowsnestmission.org. We have a banquet that's coming up with a guy from out of you guys' neck of the woods up in Atlanta, from over at City of Refuge, Greg Washington, who's doing some great things. I got to connect y'all too, Lucy. He's just rolled out a book called The Mind of a Hustler and How He Got Delivered, so on and so forth. He's going to be the keynote speaker. It's this Thursday from 6:30 to 8:30. From 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And if you want to support that, you can go on our website at sparrowsnestmission.org. You can give a donation towards that. You could lift us up with prayer times or talent. I really just would ask you to pray, if nothing else, for us. And I know you know how to get a prayer through, Lucy, so you pray. So, yeah, that's what we got coming up right now.
Awesome. Again, my brother, I thank you for joining me today. I am always excited. I know God is continuing to take Sparrow's Nest, you and my beloved sister, from glory to glory. So when is your 50th birthday? I got to ask, so I make sure I calendar it.
July the 26th.
In July. All right, I got to connect with Terry and ask her what we doing big. Got to go big or go home. Like I know. We got to celebrate it big, and I'll be celebrating with you. I'm excited. I celebrate 30 years of recovery. You celebrate 50 years of life. Neil celebrates 30 years of recovery, as well as 60 years of life, and 10 years at the Georgia Council. So, it is just phenomenal how the hand of God continues to lead us. But, I just want to share with people, again, if you're in the Athens area and you are in need of recovery, you have the Sparrow's Nest that's out there, and you have PLR, People Live in Recovery, in Athens, Georgia. And my beloved brother, Jaime Scott, is knocking it out. If God can use Jaime, he can use you. And I want people to know that. It don't make a difference what your record of the past is. It's all about what you want to do today. If you want to surrender and turn your life over, I know for a fact you're going to be amazed before you're halfway through. So my beloved brother, thank you for joining me today. I love you, and I know I'll see you soon. Any last thing you want to say?
Well, man, on a closeout note, and this isn't just because Lucy has, called me on this show or whatever else. I do these things all the time, and I humbly say that. But I want to just encourage you, Lucy, and I want to encourage your listeners who are tuned in on this podcast or whatever else, how much you have meant to me, for us in roles of pouring into me and mentoring from just seasons that God have put in my life. I'm so thankful of the platform that the Lord has you on, and also the way that you just strategically use your life story and hope of experiences just to bless so many people. Even with a lady who was caught up into, who was running for her life, I knew if I could call Lucy, and I called her, you picked up, you was ready to get the lady right into your facility who was running for her life in sex trafficking and had kids. And I'm so thankful for Mary Hall Freedom House and the work that you do. And so glad that our paths cross as well, my sister.
And I thank you, my brother. And I'm going to make sure that we come up to Athens and premiere the movie Hope Village, and make sure we do that between Sparrow's Nest and PLR. we're going to come up north and do that. And we're going to also share the book Hope Dealer, because you are truly a hope dealer. And I know you probably could have wrote this with me, because from one hope dealer to another, my brother, I love you, and I pray God's blessings continue to be with you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. All right.
All right, love.
Okay.